So let us say, speaking of weaponizing of the prosecutorial process and the exculpatory process or the sentencing process, Clinesmith, perfect segue. Kevin Clinesmith, everybody, not Kleinfeld, Clinesmith, which had me asking, first question, Robert, did Carlito die at the end of Carlito's Way?
Good open question. Most likely, yes. But well, a great film for everybody. I mean, Kleinfeld is a classic. Clinesmith makes Kleinfeld look like a beacon of ethics in terms of legal practice. To reference our first cinematic reference of Carlito's Way, Last of the Po Ricans, as Al Pacino starts out with. What happened there? I went back and looked at our Clinesmith sentencing show and our Clinesmith show 6 months ago and predicted this. So predicted one, that Clinesmith, the way that plea deal was structured, meant Durham was going to do nothing. Took a lot of crap from it from certain people. That prediction turned out absolutely correct. The second one is I predicted as soon as the sentencing memo was put down, it said he's going to walk. Said most he'll do is a week or two. And what happened? He walks. So here's a guy who lies. Who not only lies and creates a perjured affidavit before the FISA court, where the only protection is that those officers won't lie because there's no adversarial process in the FISA court because it's all done in secret and only one side gets to present evidence and argument. But forged documents, got caught red-handed forging documents that led only to the disaster of Russiagate writ large and what it did in terms of foreign policy, what it did to the Trump administration, but what it did to Carter Page individually, who had to fight to testify as a victim in the case, and detailed the horrendous impact it had on him and his family, financially, in terms of security, in terms of the emotional impact on he and his family, and the judge's reaction. One of the judges who was fooled and tricked because he sat on the FISA court as a part of this process, which raises questions about his role in it, and he allowed, first of all, he allowed Clinesmith to claim he really didn't commit a crime all the way through sentencing. It shows the open hypocrisy of this. He should have been denied his plea if that was the case. It shows what a joke Durham is, that he allowed him to say those things. That should have been hammered him. I mean, I represent ordinary people that if they contest a single little thing in the plea, the judge and the prosecutor crucify them. And I mean, I'm representing an ordinary guy where they want 5 years in federal prison for a minor tax issue. And this Clinesmith is getting to walk. So one, he gets to deny he really did anything wrong. And then secondly, he gets straight probation. Less of a sentence than George Papadopoulos got. Papadopoulos just got a few things wrong in recollection to the feds. He wasn't someone who was misusing and abusing power to target an individual, wreaking extraordinary harm institutionally and individually. And you see what the system really thinks, particularly in the District of Columbia, where he gets to walk and never serve. He gets to write articles for some liberal publication. That's his sentence. While contrast it to what happened to the guy who had the gall to put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk for being accused of nonviolent crimes, not a drug-related, not gang-related crimes, who the magistrate in Arkansas said this guy's not a threat to flee. He's not a threat to the community. Said he absolutely has a constitutional 8th Amendment right to bail, right to the bail under the Bail Reform Act. And the chief judge, that political hack, was shaking in rage and anger and did exactly what the 8th Amendment said he had no constitutional right to do. He dishonored the robes he wore. He disobeyed the oath he took. That's what, and the threat to democracy in our country are judges like him. He's the threat, not the guy who puts his feet on Pelosi's desk. Corrupt, fraudulent judges who violate flagrantly the Constitution like that hack. And he's the chief judge, gets to preside over all the grand jury proceedings in the District of Columbia. He showed that he is sort of what Biden is, his fraudulency. The second, that judge is his fraudulency, the chief justice. What he did was outrageous. He overtly said, because he was horrified that the commoners put their feet up on the great Royal Pelosi's desk, that he decided to punish him using bail. That's what the 8th Amendment explicitly and expressly prohibits. And while at the same time, the exact same district court in the District of Columbia lets Clinesmith, who committed massive institutional fraud of the worst kind since the 60s and 70s with MK Ultra and all those kind of COINTELPRO, and let him walk right out the door so that the whole cumulative effect of Spygate is zero time for anybody.
And just everybody should, I mean, you guys have seen the video, so you know, but Kleinfeld, modified an email from the CIA to the FBI confirming that Carter Page was a source in the past. Kleinfeld removed that and said altered the email to say from he was not a source to he was a source to he was not a source, because when they were applying to the FISA courts to get the warrants, the suspicious behavior that they were using and invoking was Carter Page's interaction with Russian entities. And so by creating the fact or faking the fact that he was not a source for the CIA, it eliminates the otherwise rational justification for why he had any connections with Russians or any interactions.
The entire premise for the mass spying and lying on the president's campaign that's behind both Spygate and Russiagate was that lie, because Carter Page was their access point to spying on everyone else under the 3-hop rule, which basically allows you to get somebody within 6 degrees of separation. If you can spy on Page, you can spy on Page's friends, and then you can spy on the friends of Page's friends or the associates thereof. More details have been coming out of the scale from some of the limited declassification that occurred, that they knew massive exculpatory evidence that they hid. There was massive entrapment campaigns run on the government payroll to try to defame and destroy the Trump campaign and then the Trump administration. And most of the people involved have received promotions or received book deals or received media deals or received professorships. Peter Strzok's wife is now the director of compliance for the SEC. Which might be, a bridge to the next conversation. But it shows you they have shown the whole world we're fraudulent, we're frauds, we're fakes, we're phonies, and the courts will only prosecute and punish the political dissidents and heretics. They'll do so selectively and they'll do so severely while letting their own crooks and criminals walk.
And so just to make it clear to everybody, no Clinesmith, no Carter Page, no Michael Flynn, no Mueller investigation. And just also bear in mind, I would not draw the analogy to the guy who put his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. I would draw the analogy to Roger Stone, what were they asking in that sentencing memorandum for Roger Stone?
They asked for 8 years in federal prison for him misremembering certain facts that were completely immaterial to the investigation that harmed nobody.
I'll go one step further. I'll take for granted Roger Stone lied to them about his connections to WikiLeaks. He lied outright to the FBI in the investigation. They wanted to put this guy who was 70, he's an old man, in jail for 9 years for lying to the FBI in the context of their investigation. And Clinesmith, who is a young whippersnapper on the right side of the political team, who materially falsifies a document to submit to a secret court to obtain a warrant to spy on an individual, effectively destroy Carter Page's life, by extension, destroy Michael Flynn's life, undermine a walks. Now, and they were only asking for 6 months. And I wasn't trying to be sympathetic. I'm just saying I don't even think they're going to get 6 months. And they zero probation, and he's still a member in good standing, according to the Bar Society online records, according to some articles. What can you do about it? At the very least, now everybody knows. And Robert, what can anybody do about it? What can you do about it? Everything you say is true. Rotten to the core. What can people do about it?
It exposes the system at a fundamental level, and then the next step is real meaningful institutional political reform. But the first step to identifying the need for a solution is identifying the problem. And this has unmasked the corruption of our judiciary, the corruption of the FBI, the corruption of major prosecutors in the Department of Justice at an institutional level, to the degree that almost no one can ignore it. It's so obvious. It's right in people's face. That's why D.C. is so terrified of its own citizenry right now. They're putting up walls and gates and bringing in the military. And we have something that looks like the green zone from Baghdad in our national capital, because they frankly know that they're frauds, and that's who they are. And so it's exposed it at a deep level. That's the good side of it. The bad side of it is that it even exists in the first place. But the contrast is just in the same week, you have this degree of selectivity. And you look at Ricky Vaughn, they're potentially looking for a 10-year federal prison sentence for a meme. But the guy who institutionally corrupted the entire law enforcement apparatus, who was at the key component to it, who they caught red-handed, who is the guy who gets to write letters from home.
Hi. All right. What do we move into from here? Let me just see if I took a picture of a chat. We did. Oh, well, Do you want to go into the GameStop, or do we have anything else that's more appropriate of an intermediary segue?
No, I mean, I think that's a good bridge to GameStop, because you see how the corruption works. Peter Strzok's wife. I mean, here's Peter Strzok, who was neck deep in this, who Durham's invested the sweetheart deal he cut for Clinesmith allowed Peter Strzok to walk free. He's got a professorship at Georgetown. He's got media contracts. He's got book contracts. He was the guy who helped coordinate all of this criminality, had to have known about it from the inception. They protected him by giving Clinesmith the sweetheart deal. And effectively, and now his wife gets promoted to the director of compliance at the SEC.
It doesn't make, Robert, it is enough to make you puke in your mouth, swallow it, and then puke it back up. It's beyond anything. It is as though, I won't even say incompetence anymore, but government incompetence and government corruption gets rewarded. And we're sitting here, the lowly schnooks, having a Montreal Habs jersey thrown at us by the government for all our troubles, while they are, I would venture that position pays a couple $100,000 a year and they'll never miss a paycheck during a lockdown.
Oh, exactly. Now, getting back to what can people do about it, some folks on the subreddit Wall Street Bets decided there was something they could do about it.
Robert gets the segues. I missed that one. That was a wide open home run. Good segue.